Thanks everyone for joining. I am Varun Shankar. I am from the Events and Developer Relations team, and I'll be your host for the day. And thank you all for joining in our live Q&A with BrowserStack experts. Before going ahead, few housekeeping items. So we want to keep the event crisp. We'll try to wrap it up within 45 minutes. The session is being recorded, and we welcome your questions. So please use the Q&A box and share as many questions as you feel like. The session will be shared post the event. So in case you need to hop off, that's perfectly fine. We'll be sharing the recording. For the duration of the session, we will keep the folks muted. So please use the Q&A box to share your questions. Moving on, we have a very interesting panel. We have Cormac joining in and Rakesh, both very experienced members of our customer engineering team, and they have played pivotal roles in onboarding developer and QA teams to BrowserStack and helping them with their test automation strategies for web and mobile applications. So they come with loads of experience, and please use this opportunity to ask any and every question that you may have related to BrowserStack. But I understand there will be few folks who are joining us for the first time, so we welcome you. And to that, Cormac is going to provide a very quick overview of what end-to-end testing is with BrowserStack. Cormac, please take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everybody. My name is Cormac. As Varun has said, I am a member of the customer engineering team. And really, when we talk about the overall vision that BrowserStack has, it's about being a bit of a one-stop shop for everything test, from being able to plan your tests, from being able to create them, to then executing them, and then verifying the actual results in them. So we see that we have this infinity symbol that kind of highlights the idea that this is a continual process. And underneath the first kind of banner, we see plan. And within that, we have a tool available for being able to actually plan your tests, and it's called test case management. And the idea is that you are able to actually initiate test runs, as well as like categorize them and actually define your preconditions and the actual steps for each test that you would go through. And this gives you a view on those tests in a manual fashion, as well as you can do that for automated tests as well. So you're able to plan your tests. And then we also are able to create tests. And how do we do this? Well, we have automation frameworks for being able to actually create these tests. We have tools like WebDriver.io, for example, who we now partner with. And then we also have Nightwatch.js. Then, of course, we have low-code, no-code solutions. This is something that is newly coming, and it's supported for web apps and for websites today. And we'll soon be bringing in application support as well in the near future. And then on top of that as well, we have test environment setups. So this will be things like TurboScale, which I believe Rakesh will speak about a little bit later. But this is really what we talk about in terms of creating our tests. In terms of actually being able to execute our tests as well, BrowserStack really is the enterprise standard. We will all be very familiar with Live and AppLive, of course, which are our manual testing tools, which give you access to our real device execution grid. But we're also able to do this in terms of automation as well by utilizing Automate and App Automate. We also provide tooling for visual regression testing as well. And this means PERSI and App PERSI. So you're able to actually check for the visual continuity of your websites, as well as your native applications. And then when it comes to actually being able to execute our tests, we have accessibility testing as well. And this allows us to check our conformance of our site to the WCAG guideline standard. And then, of course, we'll be bringing in API testing a little bit down the road as well. So really, so far, we have planned our tests. We're able to create them, as well as be able to execute them. But then there comes a point when we need to actually look at the results and understand them and verify them. And under that, we have a couple of tools, three of them. We have test insights, and that allows us to understand how our users are actually using BrowserStack today, which teams are utilizing it in terms of minutes, and who we need to be able to give licenses to, that kind of thing. You can make those kind of quality judgments. But then in terms of actually being able to make meaningful insights into our test executions, as well as our test builds, for this, we have test observability. And this allows us to very quickly analyze very specific errors, as well as that we also get to understand the impact that those errors have within our builds as well as of our project. And then last and certainly not least, we have accessibility reporting, which allows us to be able to actually view the results of our accessibility tests. And you also get to see it as it tracks through time as well. So all of this plan, create, execute, verify vision is supported by our platform services. And these are the core facets of what makes BrowserStack. We have infrastructure, and this is a real device execution grid, actual phones and data centers distributed globally. We also have our test data model. We have enterprise features such as identity and access management. So you're able to actually access your devices, your various BrowserStack applications through SSO and things like that. We also provide analytics. We have a wide range of integrations with continuous integration tools, with Jira, and much, much more. Thanks very much. So that's really the BrowserStack test platform vision.
Thank you so much, Cormac, for that wonderful brief introduction to BrowserStack test platform itself. But coming to the main agenda of today, the live questions. So first of all, thank you so much for sharing so many questions during the registration phase. So we have broken this into two sets. The first is we have the panelists prepare some of the answers or some of the commonly asked questions, and then we'll move on to the questions that you have to share right now. But throughout the duration of the session, please use the Q&A box and share any questions that you may have if it's not covered or what you see right now. If you have any questions on that as well, our panelists will be happy to take it. So moving on. Cormac, the first question is for you. So we have Tracy asking us how to get started with automation testing for native apps.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And thank you so much, Tracy. Yeah, no, it's a great question. It's something that we very frequently hear. How do you get started, really? Well, if you have experience with test automation, I would really recommend using some of our sample builds, and I'll have a look through them in a second. However, I just want to say, if you don't have any automation experience, there are some fantastic resources out there. YouTube has a bounty of very good test automation courses, as well as Udemy and other places like that. So I believe we also have the BrowserStack University as well, which is something that you can have a look out for. But if I'm going to approach this question from the perspective of what's the quickest or best way for us to get started with BrowserStack, provided that you have a bit of an understanding of how automation works. And so for this, we're going to have a quick look at our documentation. So this is the BrowserStack homepage, and how we get to our documentation is we come across to developers and we go under documentation. And this will take us to our complete list of documentation. So we can see for testing of our websites and web applications, we have them here. And then we also have documentation for testing our mobile applications as well. So let's just have a quick look at Selenium. And we can see Selenium with testng, for example, here. And the quickest way to get started is to actually just use our sample project. And that's what I'm going to show you now in a moment. But the sample project really is very, very straightforward. It is like a streamlined build that allows you to very quickly, with your own credentials, execute some tests on BrowserStack. So we have a couple of ways that we can integrate this project. We can use the Eclipse IDE, the IntelliJ IDE, and then we also have the CLI. So all you have to do is either download it as a zip, or you can download it from the command line using Git, or you can also do it with Maven archetype. And then after you have this downloaded, you configure one file. And this file is called the browserstack.yaml file. And this YAML file, as you'll see here, contains really all of the relevant information to be able to execute on BrowserStack. It provides a username and access key. It provides a list of platforms. And then it also provides our parallels as well as other options that we'd like to enable. And then after that, all we need to do is just run our test. So let's jump across to our actual IDE, and we can see this in action. So here's one of the sample repos. So we can see this listed here. And within our repo, we can see that we have our YAML file here, which is basically our configuration file. And it's very similar to what we had seen previously, but here we're able to pass some various information should it be required. For example, username, access key, build name, build identifier. We can also see the list of platforms. And if you're in the mood to get a bit spicy and add in extra tools like observability, visual regression testing, all of those, all that fantastic tooling that really fleshes out a test suite, we're able to just enable them with a simple parameter like so. And then, so really that's kind of the best way to get started. So really, if we wanted to execute a test, we could simply run maven test sample test, I believe is the command. And this will then start to execute our test. And this gives us a fantastic opportunity to just quickly, bare bones, get something up and running and executing on top of BrowserStack.
Awesome. I think there's a follow-up question. Are we able to run multiple apps at the same time while automating, Cormac? Is there something like that? Yeah.
So yeah, there is absolutely no reason why you can't run multiple application tests at the same time. You would just simply need to execute separate test suites on these separate applications. But yeah, that would be totally something fine. You can support a wide range of different applications all at the same time. There'd be no problem.
Awesome. I hope that answers Gayatri's query, but let me go back to the list that we had created. So I think the second question that we have is sort of something which we have already covered. Correct me if I'm wrong, Cormac, which is from Salai, is he wants to gain knowledge on automated testing for web apps. So would you like to add something to this?
Yeah, for sure. I think it'd be a good opportunity to show our test executions on the BrowserStack dashboard so that you can see what that integration would look like. So if I just share my screen now, we can see that here's a build that ran earlier. So this one was, we can jump across to automate, for example, because this question relates to web apps. And here we can see one that had run previously. So we just ran that a couple of moments ago, and this is really the BrowserStack dashboard. This is where we get to view our test executions. Up here, we can see all of the threads that get utilized as our tests are running. And over here is where we get to see all of our builds that run as well. And then this really is just a bit of a view of the actual builds themselves in terms of the information about them, in terms of how long this execution took, the user who executed it, for example. And then we jump into the actual test session itself. This is where you get full visibility of the test execution. So you can see like what browser was utilized here, what operating system was used, whether local testing was enabled, and we also get links to our visual regression testing as well as our public link. Then we can look through the actual video of the test execution as well, should we need to. We see other capabilities that we pass at the test, as well as logs and things like web performance metrics as well. So we get all of that beautiful, rich data. Yeah, I hope that helps.
Awesome. I'm pretty sure that must be really helpful for Salai and Tracy, where Cormac has just shown how to get started with mobile as well as web apps. So switching gears now, Rakesh, question for you. Kai wants to understand how to start visual testing to get pixel perfect apps.
Yeah, thank you so much for this question. So, Kai, to address this question, let me share my screen quickly and help you understand how we could do pixel perfect testing. Over here, so the one-stop solution for all your pixel perfect, and if you want to deliver your high quality applications, the one-stop solution is our automated testing tool, Percy. So Percy is a visual testing platform which you could automate your visual testing process and identify the issues at the early stages. So let me explain how Percy works. So all you need to do is you need to install a Percy SDK, which would sit in your framework. I'll walk you through the different kinds of frameworks that are supported. And once you have installed the Percy CLI command, you would have whenever you encounter Percy snapshot command, it would try to capture the DOM snapshots and it would try to send it to a Percy server. And that's where it would try to identify the differences between the baseline and the actual. And that's where you would observe the visual changes. Let me go back to the document that we have and let me show you how to get started. Whatever I've said, shown in the previous slides. This is a quick explanation of how it works. Let me walk you through the live demo. So if you want to get started, all you need to do is to create a project. So over here, so I have created a web project, and all you need to do is to add this Percy token into your existing framework. So we do support multiple frameworks. We do support Ember, we do support Cypress, and most of these popular frameworks like Selenium, Java, JavaScript, etc. So all you need to do is add the Percy token within your environment variable, and all you need to do is install the Percy CLI command. And that's where you will be able to upload the Percy snapshot into the Percy server, and that's where you'll be able to identify the visual changes. So for this demo, I have a quick example over here. As you could see here, this is my baseline, and these are the changes. As you see them, if there are any changes in the DOM structure, it has highlighted those changes, and that's where you see the color as red. So this way, you would be able to identify the visual changes, and if you find these changes are accurate and as per the expectation, you could approve it. And that's where you would be able to ship your applications with confidence. That's how Percy works in a nutshell. I hope that answers your question, Kai.
Awesome. Thanks, Rakesh, for that beautiful brief introduction to Percy. And I hope if Guy has any follow-up questions, he'll be happy to share and we'll take it up. But moving on, the next question, I think this is something which also came right now live as well. Aji wants to know how to test an auto selfie by face recognition.
All
Right.
right. Yes, thank you so much for that question again. So, well, I would like to show an interesting scenario over here. So instead of testing the selfies, the one and mostly used test scenario would be scanning a barcode scanner. So I would like to give a live example on how you could do this. Let's say you are on our app live. So we do have multiple products. App live would help you do the image injection. So let's say you want to do it. You want to scan a QR code. I have already recorded a video on how that works. So this is the recorded video to save time. I have recorded a video on how QR code works. Let me play. So this is an example app which does the QR code scanner. So what I'm doing over here is I'm uploading an image. So which has a QR code scanner for this. And that's how you could quickly scan the QR and the link would be opened. So that's how easy. But before we get into this, there are 3-step process that you need to follow. The first thing is that you need to take the screenshot of the barcode and upload over here and the QR code which you want to upload. So let me show you the example. So this is the image that I have overlaid. So this is the image of the barcode scanner, and this is the QR code which I have overlaid on this website. So once you have uploaded that, and you have the option to upload the files on the app live, that's where you would be able to do the image injection testing, or you could also do the QR code scanning. I hope that answers your question.
So Rakesh, just to clarify, this will also work if I have a selfie that I need to check.
Yes,
As long
absolutely.
image. Awesome. That's very interesting. And thanks for this short video. I'm sure people who will be also watching it later will find this very, very valuable. Moving on, let's take a look at what Dunya has to ask Cormac. So how to add BrowserStack in the pipeline of Jenkins? Cormac?
Yeah, absolutely. This is something that we get a lot of questions about. Because it makes sense, like conceptually, how to be able to execute on BrowserStack for when you have something locally. And really, it's just to integrate with the SDK, and then you put your information into that YAML file. But whenever you start talking about executing from a CI/CD, a lot of people don't really understand what that means in terms of the context of a CI/CD and how that connection with BrowserStack happens. So it is a great question. I always like to explain it like so. So let me just quickly share my screen. In essence, to run anything from a command line, we have to use some kind of command line font. We have to run some sort of command. So it's actually the integration with BrowserStack is entirely contained within the the repo itself. It's set through the BrowserStack SDK. It's defined by our username and access key in the actual YAML itself. So when it actually comes to executing from the CI/CD, there's not really that much of a difference between executing locally and executing from, say, something like Jenkins or Azure DevOps or anything like that. So really, whenever we execute locally, we run a sample command like so. So we can see here it's maven test p sample test. So that's an example of executing locally. We would run this command. Maven would then go about executing our tests. We would connect with BrowserStack, and then that would be our remote hosts, our remote drivers for actually executing and running our tests. But if we wanted to do this from Jenkins, what would that look like? So isn't it lucky I have made one from earlier? So one of the things that I always recommend is to install the BrowserStack plugin. This plugin allows you to be able to integrate easily with your access credentials to BrowserStack. And then at the end of your test executions as well, you can also see your results from that test execution. What's nice is that you're able to set up your BrowserStack credentials so that integration comes quite easily. But here's an example configuration of an end-to-end job. So this is really the entire configuration. We would have some sort of project that we'd be linked to, say whether it's on GitHub or some other remote source code management tool. Then as we go further and further down, we provide our BrowserStack credentials like so. So this is my username and access key. We provide that there. And then when it comes to actually executing our actual build, actually running our functional test with visual testing alongside it, it's simply what we were doing on local the whole time. It's just running your command line arguments. So the first thing that we do is we define our Percy token. So this is kind of a bit more different than, this is our visual regression tool, Percy, and Percy requires you to have an access token. So sometimes you can just define your tokens like so. But then we have to go through the steps of actually installing and building our actual project here. So for this, we just run npm install as a command line argument, and then we run maven compile as well. We can then define the actual configuration that we want to use. So we just export this as an environment variable, as we can see here. And in my project, this is one of the directory paths. And underneath config, there is a file called BrowserStack single.yaml file. And we can see that to actually execute our test, it's very similar. This is what I executed locally. So you would still just run that all the same. Now, this accounts for our visual regression testing tool, but you can see it's still just a command line argument and not really too much changes. And whenever we actually bridge this gap from executing on single, we can also define different configuration files as well. And that's something that we can do here, which we have done. So we can see that we export another configuration file, and this one, in this case, is called the BrowserStack parallel.yaml. And then we can actually just run our test again. So really, that's kind of the way that you execute from CI/CD with BrowserStack. The information is all contained within your repo, within your project. And you can almost just lift and shift from local into the cloud to be able to execute from a CI/CD. And the only things that you would need to make allowances for is network connectivity. Make sure that it's open, that you're able to get access to BrowserStack, and that BrowserStack is able to get access to the websites or the web application servers that you're looking to test.
Awesome. That sounds fairly simple, but in case Dunya, you have any more follow-up questions, feel free to ask us right now. You can reach us later as well. Moving on to what Prakash was asking, what is Speed Lab and how can we use it? Rakesh, can you help us with that?
Yes. So performance testing is of paramount importance at the moment. So with that being said, what is a Speed Lab? So Speed Lab is a free go-to tool where you could we could do a quick analysis of your application on different devices. Let's say over here on my screen, you could see different combinations. You could test your website across different mobile applications or desktop, and it is absolutely free. And let me walk you through a simple report that I have generated. So if I select the report, as you could see here, it has given me the performance score on iPhone 12, 14 Pro. It ran on the Safari browser. So this is for my website. I have done a sample set test on the Amazon.com. As you could see here, this is the first contentful paint. So what does it mean? If you hover on that, so it is the first text image which is rendered on the web page, which is quite essential. And as you can see here on Safari browser, it was 3.8 seconds. And you could see the page load time and what is the speed index. So this plays a crucial role in identifying the performance of your web application across different applications. We also give the performance insights. We also give the page resource summary, and we also give some recommendations and best practices so that you could fix your performance, your application performance, and make it much more faster, reliable, and scalable. That's about SpeedLab. Thank you.
Awesome. I hope Prakash gets the answer I was looking for, but it's super interesting to me. Moving onwards, Santosh has a question on how should one go about debugging an error in the Selenium script. Cormac, over to you for this one.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And that's a great question. There are a couple of ways that we're able to do this. We're able to go to the BrowserStack dashboard, which we looked at earlier, and we're able to look at our logs and see in the video exactly where like what happened visually when you're going through that UI test. You're able to actually get that analysis. But if you'd like to understand like really the impact that certain errors are having within your test suite, this really is probably test observability. It's one of our tools. It came out like it's been newly released within the last year. It really is the best way to be able to debug because you get the full context of everything. So let's have a quick look here. So if you were to navigate to observabilitydemo.browserstack.com, and I'll paste this into the chat. So there's that link there. This is something that's open for everybody to have a quick look at. And really what's so powerful about this in terms of debugging is if you notice that there's a particular failure on a particular build, for example, like say this one, regression 376, and say you wanted to get a quick snapshot at the actual failure itself, say it is this error here, can't call element clear on element with selector password input. So very quickly, we can get more and more context as we try and actually debug these. We can see that all the previous test executions for this have also failed. Really important to know. So we know that this isn't just like an intermittent problem. Suddenly, this is something that's failing consistently. That gives us more and more information. So if we actually look into the test itself, we do get the full context. And by full context, really, we're talking about a video of the test execution, which we can see here. And then underneath, we also have logs. And then we have some network logs as well. In this case, no network logs are found. But then we get information about it as well in terms of an overview, in terms of the specific behavior as well. We can see that tracked. And we can also see all of the capabilities that were passed for this particular test. So you might be thinking, okay, well, some of this information is just kind of like the BrowserStack dashboard. And while, yes, we do take the critical logs, of course, what you see here is the context of these tests historically. So if you want to see how this tracks through, this test tracks through in time, that's something that you can view. You can also report bugs with our Jira integration directly from observability. We had a question about this a little bit earlier, and this is really what I'd like to highlight here. With our Jira integration, we can actually report a bug like so. So if I just click on that, we see that we get the option to be able to actually report a bug. And that's quite a powerful feature because we've seen, hey, this has been failing historically. That's something very good to be aware of. We can also rerun directly from this machine as well, should we need to. And we can also provide comments. So we can actually comment on these tests. So that's great for just debugging. But if we want to take our debugging like to an even greater level, and we don't want to just debug the test, but we want to debug the build, then we can start to look at some of the amazing features that come with this. So if we come a little bit further down, we can see our unique errors. And these are just like the unique errors that are present within this build. And that might cause multiple tests to fail. So we can see here that this particular this particular error here, assert fail at world, this has caused 46 tests to fail. And if we click this little drop down, we can actually see all the tests that have failed as a result of this. And if we click on this again, you can just have a quick look at the test data itself, as in we get the full video, and then we also get our logs underneath. And this starts to become very, very powerful in understanding where to focus your efforts, understand your priorities as you're actually going about making renovations, I suppose, to your test suite. But if we were looking for the error that we had seen earlier, we'd simply scroll down until we find it. This was it. I can't call element clear on element with that particular selector. We see that this actually only impacts 2 tests. And we can have a quick look and see which tests have been hit by this, and we see both of them. And then we start to make the decision, oh, actually, only 2 tests failed as a result of this. Maybe the biggest priority that we need to focus on now is these 46 tests. I hope that helps.
This is extremely powerful stuff. I think this will definitely help and take the debugging a notch up, I'm sure. But going on to the next question, what Betty was asking was, she's developing an app and would like to understand more about the testing phases and planning for it. So Rakesh, can you help Betty here?
Yes, thank you for that question. And this is more of a generic question that any organization would follow. Yeah, the better approach to handle that early development is the shift left approach. So shift left approach is nothing but the early stages of testing. And what are the benefits of this is that you could improve the software quality, accelerate the delivery timelines. You could also reduce the network rework cost, and you could also increase the overall efficiency of your test. So one of the testing phases that you could follow, you could follow unit testing, end-to-end testing, system testing. And the main motto of is that you could set up layout or testing process overview, which would help you define the scopes that you want to test, what needs to be tested. You could focus on the user experience, and you could also you have you could also give commitment to your quality. So that's how you could plan on your early stages of app development. I hope that helps.
Awesome. Thanks for that brief on the testing phases. And moving on to the next question, I think we've just changed the slide. So Dipali is currently, her organization is using Cypress automation to automate the test cases. They have more than 1,000 test cases centralized on test trail, but how can they integrate with BrowserStack features? Rakesh, over to you.
Yeah. So Cormac has explained all things. Let me show you how you could quickly integrate Cypress into your existing, BrowserStack into your existing Cypress test suite. The first thing is that you could simply integrate your test with the help of the BrowserStack CLI command. So all you need to do is install the BrowserStack CLI command, and this would help you set up the configuration that you could run on the BrowserStack platform. So once you have installed the BrowserStack CLI, so this is the browserstack.json, which would appear on your project. So let me give you a quick example, a real example in my Visual Studio. Over here, this is my repo, or I already have the features written over here. These are my pages. This is my local spec file. So I'm using I'm using Cypress integrated with Cucumber. I have integrated the BrowserStack CLI, and that's where I get this browserstack.json file. And this is where you define all your browser configuration in this file. So this would help to run your test across different browsers. And let's say you have thousands of test cases. Let's say with one parallel time, your test might take 30 minutes. But if in case you increase to 5 parallels, you could run your whole test suite within 6 minutes. This is a generic example that I'm giving. And this way you could reduce this way you could get 80% faster results, and you could also save time. So thus, BrowserStack helps you to reduce your build time. I hope this answers your question.
Awesome. Cool. Quickly taking another question. So Sudhakar wants to learn, Cormac, how to go about receiving further training on 508 accessibility testing using BrowserStack.
Great. Yeah. So this is something when this question came in, it caused a learning moment to me. So that was fantastic to learn. So thanks for the great question. Let me just quickly share my screen. So we can see from section 508.gov that the revised 508 standards actually incorporate by reference the WCAG 2.0 level AA success criteria. And what this means is that a WCAG 2.0 AA subsumes 508. So if you go for anything higher than 2.0, by definition, you would be covering the conformity requirements of section 508. So
Awesome.
basically, yeah, just target 2.0 AA and above. That's the answer.
Got it. That's interesting. Moving on, Rakesh, how to do automated testing with respect to Apple and Google Pay? That's what Ahmed wants to know, and I think somebody shared the same question live as well. So I think something of interest for our audience.
All right, sure. So Apple testing with Apple Pay is a very easy task on BrowserStack. So we do support test Apple Pay, but unfortunately we don't support the Google Pay right now at the moment, but we're going to bring that very soon into our testing platform. So these are all the supported devices for the Apple Pay. As you could see, these are the list of devices that you find over here. And as in when you start the App Lab session, it's very simple process. All you need to do is navigate to the Apple Pay, click on the Pay passcode, and you would have the assistive touch screen, and you select the Apple Pay, and that's where you would be able to complete the Apple Pay. That's how simple and easy, and you could use in your testing. And we do support across different geographies. We do support in North America, Europe, Asia, and Australia. So that's about the Apple Pay. And when it comes to the Apple Pay automation, so we also have a clear document on how you could do it. Let me share that as well.
I
So
think
over here,
so sorry to cut you, Rakesh. I think it will be an interest for the audience that if you can share this link post
sure,
this in chat as well. Thank you.
well, definitely. So it's the same process. Only thing is that you need to use the capability. We also have covered different code examples that you could perform on Java, Node.js, etc. So all you need to do is enable the Apple Pay flag to true, and that's where you'll be able to complete the Apple Pay. We also give an example script on how you could do it. So I hope this answers your question. I'll be sharing this link shortly.
Awesome. I think we'll take one more question which came via registration. And Rakesh, it's over to you again. He wants to understand how to debug live environment of complex architectures like systems hosted in microservice architectures, Kubernetes, the API loading test, and how can he utilize tests to optimize the flow, especially if they're working in fintech.
So for this, we have a very interesting tool called TurboScale. So I hope, let me share my screen just a moment. I hope you could see my screen.
Not yet. Can you try again, Rakesh?
Oh, okay. There is some glitch. All right.
Yeah.
Are you able to see my screen now?
Yes.
Yeah. So what is a TurboScale? So if you have your cloud vendors, like if you have AWS or GCP cloud vendors, and if you want to execute your test on your own platforms, so we got a tool called TurboScale. So what is TurboScale? It is a scalable automation grid. What it does, it provides a grid that would be deployed onto your own cloud infrastructure and would allow you to run your test effectively and efficiently. So one good thing is that you could always uh, you could achieve shift left testing, that is the early stages of testing that can be introduced, and you could also reduce the flakiness, and you could get more consistent test results. And you could also have the missions on demand, unlike so you need not run your devices again and again. You could run your devices on demand, and you could also improve the performance of your devices where the test has been executed, so that you could maintain all your tests and all your missions on your fingertips. So let me give you a quick overview on how to get started. So we do support, as I mentioned, we do support Amazon Cloud, Google Cloud, and Microsoft Azure. So you could also specify the region where do you want to deploy your BrowserStack services, and you could select the different options that is available. It's a simple setup, and you have two options. One, you could install through Helm or BrowserStack CLI. So that is up to you. And we support some of the popular frameworks like Selenium and Playwright. And this is how you could easily run your test on your own cloud platforms using our BrowserStack. So I hope that answers your question.
Awesome. So we just have a couple of minutes left. Let me quickly share my screen. And so these were some of the few questions which we thought that covered majority of the topics that people are interested in. If there's still more questions, please feel free to shoot away now, or you can connect with us later as well. But you should be seeing a poll question on your screens now. We just would like to understand from you which products which you saw today in this session you found interesting, and if so, would you like a follow-up call from us? So one of my partners, Dhruv, if you can please launch the question. You guys gonna see a poll question very soon on your screen. Awesome. So that was the first thing, and I'll just give a couple of seconds for people to quickly share your responses. If you guys would like to explore any of the products that you saw today, and we would like to get back to you on this. So please feel free to share your responses. If there are multiple products that you're interested in, you can select multiple options as well. Let me share my screen again for visibility. So in today's session, you saw test observability, bit of accessibility, app per se and per se, and automate and app automate. But if you're also interested in our manual products or accessibility in general, please feel free to share your responses. The second more exciting thing that's coming your way is we have very awesome events coming up, starting with an introduction to BrowserStack low code, no code happening on the 14th, where we have our product managers who have been the core team in creating that, sharing their experiences and insights. Following which we have
Sorry, Varun, just to add in there is a question from Ganesh on this, the idea of being able to do a record and play automation type thing. And I'd just like to point out that might be a fantastic webinar for you to have a quick look at, because it's BrowserStack low code automation. That's exactly what you're looking for.
Yeah. So you should see a question on your screen very soon on the upcoming event. So like I was mentioning about low code, no code, similarly, we have on the 21st, the BrowserStack Advantage. We have our very own director of QE speaking in that session. And then we have the third and the most awaited QA Leadership Summit. It's a one-day summit with like multiple sessions. We have still the speaker list is coming up, but for those who are interested in thought leadership content coming in from the heart of people who have been in the core of what QA is up to, please do join the QA Leadership Summit. It's on the 18th of April, and you would see a poll question on your screen. Please simply select the event that you're interested in, and we'll shoot the registration form to you. So that was it, but I think we still do have a couple of questions for those who like to stay back. I think, Cormac, I'll shoot a couple of more questions to you. One key question which came earlier on from Gayatri was she wants to understand how to open same app in multiple devices at the same time, and how to install testflight for iOS device if she wants to open her app. Is it something we can help her with?
Sure. So to open the same app in multiple devices at the same time. So if you would like to, so that would be something that you would do by default by utilizing the YAML file. So for this, let me quickly share my screen. For this, we can see that we're able to, so this is just our YAML file, okay? And this is just like a configuration file. And in this configuration file, we define the specific devices that we want to execute our tests against. So if you're taking this from the flavor of Appium, for example, and you wanted to target your tests on a wide number of different devices, you would simply just increase the number of devices. So you could like choose this one, then choose another, and you could continuously add as many different device types as you would require here. Now, if the question comes in reverse and you would like to execute, and I think that's what one of the questions was about being able to target many tests to execute on a single device in parallel. The way to do this would be to set the parallels per platform flag. And this defines how many parallel tests are able to execute at a given time per platform. So say, for example, in my testng.xml, I have multiple different tests actually listed. Suddenly, because I have 25 parallels per platform in this example, because I have 25 parallels per platform available to me, all of those tests will execute per platform as many as we allow. I hope that helps. Then in regards to installing testflight for iOS device, so you are able to, on BrowserStack Live, you are able to install applications from testflight. I'd be more than happy to have a quick look through the documentation for this.
All right.
Yeah, just 1 second. So let me just share my screen. So test apps installed via testflight. So we do have supported devices, and these devices are iOS 10 and higher. And the test apps installed via testflight, basically, you just define the source that you want to actually install from. So that's just on the source panel. And if we actually look at the dashboard for this, so if we go products, and then we go be under App Live. If we come to App Live, sorry, 1 second. If we come to the App Live dashboard, and then we decide to start choosing some of our sources, we get the opportunity here to actually load our application from testflight. So we can do that as part of the entire system of BrowserStack itself through our UI here. Okay,
Awesome.
I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I think we are on time. Actually, I've shot a couple of minutes over, but thanks a lot for staying on, and thanks Cormac, thanks Rakesh for such wonderful insights. I hope for the audience we were able to share most of the questions that you had. If you still have questions, please feel free to write to us. And if you want to have a follow-up discussion one-on-one, we'll be happy to take that up as well. Thank you so much for your time, guys. And have a very good afternoon, good evening, good night from your logging in. Thank you.